Agud Voch Rabbi Sai. Lili Nishmas, Imi Rosers was Mordechai, Good Moyed, Agud Voch, live from Chicago. Hayoim Chamisha Yomim Boimer. The Sphere Soimer sponsored the Refuas Sora Basheva, a 10-year-old girl. She should have a Refuah Shlemo. The Mesech is sponsored by Anonymous for the safe and speedy return of all the hostages. Pernsa Chodesh, Neshech, Chai B'Moish, Neshech, Chai Bas Yosef. Pernsa Chodesh, the last day, Yosef Ben Chaya Sara for the zchusim that come from supporting limud HaTorah. You should have tremendous zchusim. The Pernsa Chodesh Binyomin Rosenfeld for hatzlacha in business and all my endeavours. Pernsa Yoim, Pernsa ולהצלחה בשפע ולזיווג הגון בקרב ולזיווג Ben Feiga Leah Amen. Aron Meislik. The Nishmas Habachor Tuvio Ben Avraham Menachem Allah Shalom on the fourth yard side of our beloved Tuvi, who sadly lost his fight to his illness, but was never able to get married and see future generations. May be a Melis Yosher for his family, his friends, and the whole of Klall Yisroel. We shouldn't know from such Tsaras. Parnas ha chodesh for the art, anonymous for the zchus, for a healthy childbirth, and for his daughter, and a healthy baby. Rabbi Isai, we're at the tail end of Perek Hazava, where we are going to begin the famous Perek of Eizehu Neshech. We have a few days of almost like a gadata, easy stuff into Eizehu Neshech, and then the business stuff starts coming up. The interest, halachas about interest. Beautiful stuff. We're holding by the Mishnah, the bottom of Nutes Amud Beis. Ein ma'arvin peiros bepeiros. So somebody comes and says, I want to buy fruit from this field, so you have to give from this field. You can't give him wheat from another field. Mix the two wheats from a little bit of this field, a little bit of that. Afilu chadoshim chadoshim, even if it's fresh, off the tree, off the ground. Ve'ein tzarach loymar chadoshim b'yishanim, top of samach Amud Aleph. Certainly, Rashi explains that older wheat produces more flour. So certainly, ein tzarach loymar chadoshim b'yishanim, you cannot mix newer crop with the older crop that has more flour. It provides more flour. Be'emes amru. The Gemara is going to explain be'emes amru means this is the halacha. Anytime in Shas it says be'emes amru means there's no arguing on this. B'yayid hitiru l'orev koshe berach. I wanted to show you the bottle, Katzrin bottle that Abba Renner gave me for Pesach, and I drank it. I actually drank it today, last night. The oilam by me stopped drinking wine. It was only me, basically, me and my wife. Gewaldig stuff, but on the bottle, it says, it's not mamish the same thing, but in our days, you can see like 80% it's this grape, 10% it's Merlot, or 5% it's Petit Verdot, whatever it is. To mix different types of wine, the yain etir l'arif kasha, strong, maybe it means Cabernet Sauvignon, together with Rach, Merlot, I don't know. They had stronger grapes and not as strong, because putting in the stronger grape makes it a better wine. So that's mutter to do. If he tells you he wants the weaker grapes, the weaker wine, and you add the stronger one, it's good it makes it a better wine. Another halacha, shimrei yayin biyayin. The sediments of one wine should not be mixed into another wine. So the Gemara is going to explain the Gemara goes into it and back and forth, but the bottom line is it's the way it sounds almost. You cannot take sediments from one wine and put it into another wine. But if the sediment of this wine is even outside of the bottle or the barrel, you put it back in because it came from that barrel. Especially in the time of the Gemara when they used to dilute the wine. It was very strong. That's another way for them to even drink water. They would dilute it with water, usually like a third water. So if you already diluted it, if you have a store selling wine, you shouldn't sell it in your store. If you notify people, hey, it's already diluted, then you're permitted. But don't sell it to the wholesaler. Even if you tell him what you did, why? He doesn't care. He's going to take your wine. He's going to sell it off as if it's undiluted wine. He's going to cheat people. Says the Mishnah, if that's the minhag to add water, you could do so. Another halacha. The wholesaler, you can take from 5 different granaries. A silo, here we go. Rabbi say, picture time. Here's a silo, a modern day silo, a very large one. Basically, this is where you store your wheat. Here's more of an ancient silo. So the tager could take from 5 different grains, and he puts it, this is how he stores it. So when he sells it off, there's some sort of mixture, and that's fine. People expect that from him. Mechamesh gitois, he can take from 5 different barrels, into one giant cask. Something as follows. Don't intend to mix it up. You put it in like this, but you're not trying to cheat people by telling people, oh, this is the good wine. It's not, this is how it is. This is my wine. In other words, the bottom line is you don't tell people it's from one place, it's one grape, it's one grain. People should understand that you're a wholesaler and you received it from different places. So if the new wheat is cheap, for a certain amount you pay 4. And the older crop, which produces more flour, is more expensive, it's 3. Certainly you cannot cheat him, you can't take from the cheap and put it into and pretend that it's expensive. Even if it's reversed, the new is more expensive, you don't mix it up. Why? I'm giving you something more expensive. Well, this is not the reason. The reason why it's more expensive sometimes, the newer crop is more expensive, even though it produces less, is because people want the newer crop so they could store it and it will last longer. The bottom line is that a newer crop, each thing has a pro and a con. The newer crop lasts longer, the older crop produces more flour. If I ask you for newer crop, don't give me the older crop. I don't care about the flour, I care about longevity. If I ask you for the older crop, don't give me a new crop because I don't care about longevity, I care about the produce, what it's going to produce. So in Mela, I don't care about price now. 3, 4, do not mix them. We said in truth, you can mix different wines. On this they said, anytime in Shas, you will hear these words. Halachi. That's the halacha. This halacha that says that you're allowed to mix the strong wine with the weaker wine is talking about the season of mixing. There was certain days of the year that would get together and they would mix it. Then you can do so. Ask the Gemara, how is it today, in our day, that they mix the wine even though it's not the season to mix or to make wine? It's not the season of producing wine. Because people know, and they're moichel. Because this goes like Rabacha, the Sanya, Rabacha, Mater, B'dova Haniton. Anything that you can taste, there's a heter to mix because let the person taste it. If he likes this wine, I'll take it. If not, not. What's going on here? So it seems very simple, but the Gemara makes the whole thing out of it. It seems like from the ratio you cannot mix sediment. Then it says you could. Maybe perhaps the Gemara says, let's try out a different pshat, not the simple pshat. Maybe the pshat is that he give him the sediments means that he notifies him. As the at the end of the Mishnah, it talks about notifying, not notifying. In the ratio of the Mishnah, the beginning of the Mishnah doesn't mention at all anything about notification. So it seems like you don't have to notify. So the bottom line is, this is the pshat. Do not mix yesterday's barrel with today's barrel and today's barrel with yesterday's. In other words, this is very important. It's not about yesterday and today. It's about do not mix two barrels. You can take from here and go and take from here and mix the sediments of this barrel with itself. Do not mix two barrels. Why is it called yesterday and today? To show you that we're talking about two separate barrels. But you could put the sediments, even if they're outside of the barrel. The sediments are here. You could reintroduce them into the barrel, and that's okay. If somebody pours wine really, really slow, so what's going to happen? All the sediment is going to remain on the bottom. So he remains with sediment. Do not mix yesterday's barrel today's with yesterday's. You can mix the sediments of this barrel with this barrel. And yesterday's barrel, today's barrel, yesterday's barrel, that's okay. If you have water mixed into your wine, you should not sell it in the store unless you notify. Says the Gemara story, they brought Rava wine, he diluted it. And we had a different Gemara that Rava, according to one sheet, was the best in diluting. He knew how to dilute it in a very special way. Tame, and he tasted it. We have a basin. It wasn't good wine. Shadri l'chanusa, return. I don't want it. Give me a full return. Omele Abayo, but Abayo tells Rava, Vanatan l'vila l'tager, Aval bishoy diyoi. How can you return to the store, to the wholesaler? It's also to return to the store, even if you notify him, because he's just going to resell it as is and cheat the customers. My dilution, everybody can recognize. In other words, it's very light. I put a lot of water in there, and you cannot sell it as undiluted wine. So maybe the owner will add more wine to it and make the diluted wine less noticeable. Again, Rava buys a bottle of wine. Let's say he adds 50% water. So now everybody knows, it's diluted. Comes the owner and adds more wine to that bottle. So now the dilution is not 50%, now it's only less than a third, let's say. So people won't realize. Says the Gemara, like that. Says Rashi, beautiful. If so, you cannot sell somebody a bottle of water. Why? Because if you sell them a bottle of water, maybe the guy will add a bunch of wine to it and sell it. You can't worry that somebody's going to add wine. You can worry that somebody will sell it as is. He receives a product, and he pretends he doesn't know that it's diluted, and he sells it as is. But he cannot worry that people will add more wine to the diluted product. That we're not concerned about. In a place that they add water to wine, you're permitted to do so. Whatever it is, 50%, a third, a quarter. You're allowed to add this water while it's the season to mix the wines. A owner of a vineyard, of a wine company, calls his children his final moments in life, and he tells them, he says, listen, I want to tell you a secret. If you ever run out of ingredients for the wine, when you have no choice, you could also use grapes. I'm reminded by this. Lamechza, you could put 50% water. It's another joke. A guy goes to a winemaker's home and he's making kiddush there. So like the Chassidim, they add a couple drops. So the guy screams, no, stop. You put one more drop, it's puzzled. You have ripe water. Don't do that. Zogdei Ligi Mishnah. Very interesting halacha. It's also for a store owner to give out treats to the children. Candy, cotton candy, toys. The time of the Gemara was a bunch of nuts. The child has a choice. The parents give him money to go buy wine. So he goes to the store that gives out candy. He's not going to go to the other guy. So you're hurting the other guy's business. You hear what's going on here? So you have to think about it, how that applies to us, and does it apply to us? Chacham say, luckily they say it's mutter. Why? Because the Gemara is going to explain, let the other guy give better treats. That's how it is. But it makes you think for a second. What about marketing? What about sales? And that's what the Mishnah is going to discuss. You cannot charge less than the market. Because there are stores that do that. They charge less than the market on certain products, and then you come to the store, and then they get you on other products. Do this crazy sale. You get 3 bottles of grape juice for $1, but once you're there, you're buying all your Pesach product there. Is that mutter? If he's breaking the market, great. He gets a zchus, so now everybody's going to gain from it. Says the Mishnah Yavar Esagrisa. You're not allowed to take from the crushed beans to take out the stuff that's not edible and make as if you have a nice product there. Divrei Abishal, Chacham Matir. Once again, Chacham Makel over here. This I noticed a lot in Eretz Yisrael, at least. You buy strawberries. So they sell them in this plastic container. On top, they're beautiful red ones. Sometimes if you pick it up and you look on the bottom, there's a bunch of rotten ones there. So what they do is, they have a lot of strawberries to get rid of. So they take not so nice ones and they put them on the bottom. And then they cover the top. Not the same guy I spoke about, maybe, but whatever. Got into a lot of trouble. The thing went viral, Hashem Yirachem. Okay. Not trouble, but people sent me, sure, you want people to know about this? I'm like, I don't want it to go viral, no, but it is what it is. Fine. I was hoping they wouldn't really know what I'm talking about. There are at least 4 stores, major stores. There's 2 stores that sell only fruits and vegetables. But anyway, they used to have a guy on Friday selling outside. It might be the same people, but it's also to put on the top level, Megura, the top shelf, to show the nicer stuff, as if that's what the whole product is. That's stealing from the eye. Ein mefarkesin, you cannot beautify, lo yisa adam, as the Gemara is going to explain, beautify a slave, a non-Jewish slave, so he should look good, so you can sell him. And you don't beautify an animal. Today, a kli would be like a car. Could you go to a nice gezunta car wash, wax the car really well, take out a couple of dents, and pretend that it's, this car was in a rollover accident, and you do a few things, a few tricks, and all of a sudden it looks like a brand new car. Is that mutter? Says the Mishnah, you cannot beautify products. Let's see we can't just pass him based on the Mishnah, but it teaches you something. You got to think before you sell something off as if it's a beautiful brand new thing. My time, how do Rabbanan? Why do Rabbanan say that it's permitted to give out candy. We have to understand why it's mutter. Because Chacham say, I know, it's like Gino I'm going to say. I'm only giving out this cheap candy. But if you really want, Palek Shiske. So look at Rashi, on the bottom, Rashi, Shiske, prunes. I guess in French, they call it prunes. Prunish. Akol ponim v'oifen. Don't look down at me that I'm giving out candy. You can also give out candy. You can give out ice cream. There's a store in Israel, I'm not going to say it anymore because it's going to go viral. There's a store, furniture store. They have this iced coffee machine and all sorts of great treats for children. So you just have to spend like $5,000 and you get a free iced coffee kind of thing for your child. Givaldic. But meanwhile, your children are schlepping you to buy furniture. Oh, you can get free iced coffee. Chacham say you could lower the price. My time in the Rabbanon, Amud Beis, return to Amud Beis, because you're breaking the market. It's good. We don't want monopolies and high prices. This guy is causing the price to drop. We just turned to Amud Beis, sponsored by Kidnovations in honor of my Uncle Reb Elchanan Pressman and as zchusim for Akiva Simcha Ben Feiga. Official mitzvah motivators in honor of the limud for sponsoring farm for the daily Talmud learning. The Worsman brothers for the Yar Zeit of our grandfathers, the Chaver Moshe Ben Yerachmiel Shalom and our Rav Eliezer Moshe Ben Reb Shema Zatzal. I know what you're thinking. Oy vey, Neshech is coming up. Givaldic. Looking forward. Zog De'ele Gemara. Top line. V'lo yovoir es agrisen cannot take out the crushed beans that you're not going to be selling. Divri Abba Shol. Chachamatir man chachamim. Who's this chacham? Reb Acha. This how Reb Acha matir b'dova hanira. Since everybody sees what you're doing, I see it. Let's say in the pitzuchim store in Israel. You know they sell the nuts and everything. So let's say you have peanuts with the red peel on top or whatever it's called, the shell. So the guy goes and he organizes in a way that it looks nice and it looks edible, it looks good. That's the top part, which we said we shouldn't really do, but it's something that happens. You should not. Here, this is a great picture of Misharbitin. Basically, to have its hair stand out. So it looks like larger, bigger. And you don't blow up the intestines. And you don't let the meat not rinse, not put meat in cold water is called, Mark, what's the word? Not soak. Yeah, soak maybe. You don't soak the meat in water to make it a different color. It makes maybe the marbleization of the steaks. It makes it pop. Whatever it does, you don't do that. Today there's another. I just thought about something else. Today one of the tricks that they do is that they soak the meat in water so it absorbs water. So now when you're selling it by the weight, it's much heavier. And I'll tell you on the package. 30% water. They actually inject it with water. Says Gemara, "My aim is sharpetin. It's to give the animal this bran water, makes its hair stand. You comb it in a way that the hair stands, and therefore it looks like a larger animal. So now we have a number of things that Amoraim allowed people to do. To add silk to the coat, Rav Yehuda Shara, the Sachsuche Kirme, to use starch on some of the garments over there. Rabba Shara Lemeidak Tzarde, I'm just quoting the art scroll here, beat the canvas, whatever that means. Rabba Shara Letzalume Gira, you're trying to do something to enhance your product, to make it look good. To paint, Rabba Shara Letzalume means to paint. Like a picture in Hebrew is called tzalume, the tzalem, to paint gire is arrows. Rav Papa Rav Shmuel Shor L'Salumi Dekule. You could paint the baskets. Ask the Gemara, Vanatnan. You're not allowed to beautify a person, animal, or kalim. So how can you beautify these kalim? You're allowed to beautify new kalim. You know, another thing I remember that in the fruit store, in America at least, they take apples and they wax them. You ever notice like they're really shiny? They go through a machine, something special. There's still not so much into that. But this idea of taking something new and putting the lights on the car, from the top, and then the smell and the whole thing. Okay, when it's new, it's mutter. When it's older, to take a car that was beat up and bando it, and then you put it through the car wash, you pretend it's a beautiful, almost new car. That's a problem. Says Gemara, what's considered beautifying a human being? There was a very old slave. He went and he dyed his hair and his beard. He looked young. So before I forget, is it mutter for a Jewish man to dye his beard, to dye his hair? So one of the problems with that, you have to ask your local rabbi, it's problematic. Why? Something called leisilbash. It's something that women do, and this is acting like a woman. Now, they usually don't dye their beards, they dye their hair. Now, if it's something that's really embarrassing, like a young guy, he has white hair and he's embarrassed by it. Imagine an 18-year-old, I know somebody like that, all of a sudden has white hair, part of his head is white. So I think there's a heter for that. And again, I'm not passing, I'm just throwing things out. If you do it to fool somebody, let's say you do it because you want to look 20 years younger and get a certain job, that's asur. In terms of the leisilbash, I think it's problematic, but ask your local rabbi. There's a certain heter for it. So, this slave, he's a non-Jewish slave, so he really doesn't have that problem, I don't think. He's chayv mitzvahs like a woman, but maybe he was a goy at the time. Anyway, he wanted to sell himself to a Jewish person. Also, the Rav comes to Rav. Amarle, Zivnan, please buy me. Amarle, you ani bnei beisecha, says Rashi. This is a mission of us. It's better that I shall hire Jewish help. Yeah, you saw it anyways in life. If you can hire Jewish help, I know sometimes it's hard to hire Jewish help. Why? Because Jews always know better than you. They always want to take over your business also. Not always, but a lot of times it's problematic, but you should hire them anyway. You should try to give Pernasa to a Yid. So Rabbi tells him, I'm sorry, I'm not buying you. I'd rather use Jewish labor. Give the Pernasa to poor people. Poor Yidden. And we see that actually saved him. Says the Gemara, so he comes to Rav Papa Shmuel Zavnei, so Rav Papa bought him. Yom Echad. So now he's a slave of Rav Papa. So Rav Papa says, Ashkemaya, please get me a cup of water. So he goes and he washes out the dye from his head and his beard. And then he comes to him and says, look, I am older than your father. Treat me with a little respect. You're telling me to get you a cup of water? What's wrong with you? Please buy me. And then, as soon as he asked him for just a cup of water, nothing major. I didn't say plow my field. I said, get me a cup of water. No, chutzpah. I could be your father. I'm older than your father. I could be your grandfather. So Rav Papa says, Tzadik mitzara nechla. It's Rava who was saved from a tzara. V'yovay acher tachtov. And I, Rav Papa, came instead of him, and I fell for it. With that, Rabbi Yisai, Hadran aloch hazov, Hadran aloch hazov, Hadran aloch hazov. Here we are. Perek Eizehu Neshech. Unbelievable. I'll start off with a joke. There was a guy who inherited a very large inheritance. So his friends told him, listen, the first piece of advice that we could give to you is if anybody comes with returns that are too good to be true, do not invest. So he said, okay. He says, like, somebody comes to me and says, we'll give you 20% returns. Run for your life. It's impossible. It's too good to be true. You run. So a guy comes to him and says, listen, I have this unbelievable business, 20% return. He says, no, I can't invest. So the guy, he says, why? He says, they told me, too good to be true, I don't invest. He says, okay. Comes back to the next day, he says, listen, same business, but I'm not going to give you 20%. I'm only going to give you 10% returns. 10% they didn't say. 10%, that sounds like that's already good. So Rabbi say, if you are like this guy, then you might not enjoy international. If you get the simple basic concepts of business, it's very enjoyable. So far, I had a very good time. I'm 3 daf into it, and it's gewaldig. So it happens to be the second day of Chalamayid, wherever you are. It depends where you are exactly. The laning was im kesef talvez ami. It's a tremendous kiss from Hashem. Mamish im kesef talvez ami. We're talking about halva of money. The idea of interest, there's a Perek about interest. And it happens to be that interest surrounds us on our day-to-day dealings in so many different ways. Especially if you live in Eretz Yisrael, you have neighbors, and we discussed this, they borrow milk, they borrow plastic bowls. Let's say they borrow a package that's open, and they return a package that's closed that has the full amount. It could be ribis. Especially if you're borrowing money from a Jewish bank. Well, here in Chicago, a good friend, Louis Colm, has a bank, Jewish bank. There's another Jewish bank here in Chicago. In Eretz Yisrael, all the banks are Jewish. So how does that work? Did you know that if you do a heter iska, one way to get away with round ribis is to do a heter iska? Well, if you don't know how a heter iska works, it could be over on ribis. You have to know how it works in order to do a heter iska. It's not just signing the document. Sometimes you purchase something and there's 2 prices. If you pay me in cash, it's one price. If you pay me a credit card, it's another price. It could be an issue of ribis. What about if you pay it all up in advance or with payments? So here's another one. Let's say you rent. I'm in the rental business, right? I rent units, apartments to people. If somebody pays late, he gets a fine. He has to pay a certain amount of money per day that he's late. Yeah, there's a few days maybe that you don't have to pay, but after you're late 3, 4, 5 days, you have to start paying. Is that ribis? The bottom line is that ribis is everywhere. It's all around us. And there's a lot of very, very interesting shilas. The Gemara tells us that those who lend with ribis, and the isser of ribis is to borrow also. So the isser is on the lender and the borrower. And it's a very, very interesting halacha because you're not doing anything wrong, l'chayra. You're helping the guy out. The guy wants to borrow money. You're helping him. He wants to invest the money and he's willing to pay you interest. You could rent him a car. That's not a problem. But to rent him your money is the problem. The idea behind the whole ribis is Hashem wants us to lend our fellow Jew money without taking interest, to make it easier for him. The halacha is only to a yid. Those who do lend with ribis, the Gemara compares them to killers, to reitzchem. Interesting that it says that malvei ribis is similar because we're in Pesach now. It's like if you don't believe in if you do ribis, then you're koifer and yitzis mitzrayim. It says. On the flip side, if you help another yid by giving him a non-interest loan, so then you have the haftach of the pasuk. L'man yivarechecha Hashem alikecha, Hashem will bless you. Okay. So with that being said, let's jump into it. Eizehu Neshech ve'eizehu tarbis. So take a look at the pasuk for a second. Al tikach mi'ito, you shall not take from him neshech v'tarbis. What are these two words? Neshech means to bite. So you are a snake, you're biting the borrower. Tarbis means to increase what you have. The Gemara is going to tell us that these two things are actually the same. It's a double is or neshech v'tarbis, but they mean the same exact thing. From the Mishnah, it doesn't seem like that. The Mishnah tries to give us another example with tarbis. Neshech and tarbis. So let's see what it is. Eizehu Neshech v'eizehu tarbis. What's the Isser D'Oraisa when it comes to lending money? Hamalves sela b'chamisha dinarim. So somebody lends a sela. A sela is only worth, as you can see here, 4. But he lent it for 5. Okay? I'm giving you 4, you have to return 5. That's ribis d'oraisa. Why? Because there's something called ribis ktsutza. See if we can find it here. Okay. Something called ribis ktsutza. Ribis ktsutza means, and we'll see, I forgot to do all the Yidis Hashas, of course, because there's not a lot of time from after Ma'ariv until Shir. So hopefully we'll get it in tomorrow, probably not a good day. Tomorrow we also have to give 2 shiurim, Daf Samach Aleph and Daf Samach Beis, before Yom Tov. So, ribis ktsutza means when you decide up front, I'm giving you 4, you give me back 5. That's katzutz, it's predetermined what you're paying back. That's midaraisa. So again, ribis d'oraisa, interest midaraisa means that as a loan, I'm giving you 4 as a loan, you're returning back 5. It's determined to begin with what it is. That's this d'oraisa. Or the same thing applies with food. So sayim chitim 2 sa of wheat b'shalosh. You have to give me back 3. Also, you are biting into the loiva, into the borrower. Vezu tarbis. What's a case of tarbis, which we call ribis tarbis? Hamar bebeperis. Okay, so you gain with fruit. So there's a number of things that we should be discussing, and that is many times you give the store money, give a guy money, and based on the money that you give him, he provides you with fruit throughout the year. Now, if the price of the fruit goes up, and he provides you the same amount of fruit that he promised to begin with, that could be a problem of ribis. You give him in the beginning of the year $100 for 100 pounds, and the price of the pound went up to $2 a pound, so now it's worth $200, but you only gave him 100. So basically, you lent him $100. He took the money up front, and he's using your money throughout the year. He's doing business with it, but because he's using the money, he agrees to give you double the amount or double the value. Well, there's 2 conditions that could get you out of this. One is called geshloi. We actually discussed it recently when we were discussing saw b'saw. Yeshloi means if you have this in stock, if you can provide this guy that gave you $100, you can provide him today with his £100, but you do him a favor and you just give it to him throughout the year, that's okay. Also, we need Yotza Hashar. Okay, Yotza Hashar just means that there's a price right now, there's the market price, and it's stable and it's good. So we have these two things together, Yotza Hashar, Yeshli, he has the fruit, then you could take a contract on fruit, future fruit. So it says like this, Ketzad, how does this Marbi B'Peres work? Lokach Himenu Chitim B'Dinar Zov Akur. See if we can find it. Yeah, so we're talking now on something called Psiko Al Peres, a contract on fruit. So he said, okay, I want a kur, it's amount of wheat, for a dinar of, which is 25. Here, you see, 25 silver coins. And that's what the current market is. Oh, but the price of wheat went up more. Now wheat is higher in price. It costs 30 silver coins. Omar Loi, so the guy who made the deal, he says, can I please have my wheat? I want to buy some wine. Omar Loi, what do you want to do? You said you want the wheat because you want to buy wine. Guess what? I also have wine. So let's do this. I will give you 30 coins worth of wheat, but let's transfer the wheat into wine. But you know what? I'm not going to give you the wine today. I'm going to give you the wine next month. The problem is that the wine could go up in value. So says the Mishnah, so let's see some of these charts. I don't want to miss any of Yoshi's charts. Neshech. We'll get back to this case in a second because he has a chart here. You borrowed one cell that's worth 4 to give back 5. That's the Raisa. Oh, and here's the case that we're talking about. Tarbus. He says, please give me 1 core of wheat for 1 golden coin. Now the price of wheat went up to 30. So he says, you know what? Instead of me giving you wheat, I'll give you 30 worth of wine. But wine, not that it went up in price, it could go up in price. And therefore, this is Asur Midrabana. You get the case? Please give me my wheat. So the guy says, okay, I realize I owe you wheat worth 30. Let's transfer the 30 into wine. But I'm not going to give you wine, because if I could give you wine right now, then that's something called Yeshloi. So if I don't have the wine, that's Einloi. That's where it becomes a problem. Yeah, if he has the wine, that's Yeshloi. So I don't have to provide it to you today. Since I have it in stock, I can give it to you tomorrow. I could give it to you today, so I'll just delay it till tomorrow. But if I don't have it, that's where the problem occurs. He doesn't have it. So by me giving you wine tomorrow, next week, when the price could potentially go up, there's a problem with ribbis. Explains the Gemara. It's simple stuff. Don't get nervous. Simple stuff now. From the fact that the Mishnah jumps from Neshech, from the Eizehu, all the way to the Rabbanon, so obviously when the Torah says Neshech and Tarbis, and the Mishnah didn't explain Tarbis as a separate case of a Eizehu case, it wanted to explain it the Rabbanon case. So obviously Neshech and Tarbis are one and the same. Voch, Voch, Kroik Sivi, Neshech Kesev, Ribis Seinfeld. So what's going on here? But in the pasuk it says two different things. Let's see if we can find the pasuk. Not really in order. Oh, here it says, "L'sashach lochicho neshech kesef, neshech choichel, neshech kol davar sheishoch." Is that the pasuk I'm looking for? No. This is all. Forget this pasuk. So maybe it's the pasuk before. Yeah, let's use this one. Neshech kesef, ribis loichel. Says Gemara, "V'tizbero deike neshech v'lei tarbis v'lei neshech." Do you really think there's something called neshech where the borrower gets stung and the lender doesn't increase his net assets? Tarbis means that the lender gained. Neshech means that the borrower lost. Is it possible to have one without the other? So the Gemara attempts to show that perhaps it's possible. The Gemara says it's impossible. If one gains, the other one loses, and vice versa. How's it possible that the borrower loses when the lender doesn't gain? So Yoshi did a nice thing here. Let me get to it. Let's say he lent money 100 and he says, I want back 120. So here goes. Neshech b'lei tarbis. Oh, it's backwards. Hold on. Neshech b'lei tarbis. Really should be this way. I like this. I'm going to pretend it says Neshech b'lei tarbis over here on top. The malva gives the loiva money. At the time the alva, it was 100. I think just the top is messed up. Neshech b'lei tarbis evidami. Ido isvi meyo b'meyo v'esrim. He lent him 100 for 120. Mikara kaime meyo b'danko, ul b'soif kaimo meyo v'esrim b'danko. So for one danka, in other words, if we're going to view the silver, as you can see over here, at the time of the alva, one silver coin was worth 100 prutas. At the time when he returned the money, on the bottom, it was worth one silver coin is worth 120. But in terms of silver, that's prevailing currency, silver, the malva didn't gain anything. He's still getting back one silver coin. It happens to be that a silver coin costs 120 of copper coins. So, do we view the time of the loan? At the time of the loan was 100. And now, based on the time of the loan, right now, he got back 120. In the beginning, it was worth 100 for one silver coin. And then he got it back. It was 120 for a coin. Neshechika, the konochisle, he bit the loiva. The loiva loses. Why? Because the loiva has to pay 120. He got 120. He took from him 120, even though he only received 100. But the malva didn't gain anything. He didn't gain. The danka is favorite danka because he lent one danka and he took back one danka. Says the Gemara, soif. At the end of the day, if you're going to look at the time of the loan, then the loiva lost and the malva gained. But if you're looking at when he paid back, he didn't lose anything and he didn't gain anything. Let's go to the next case. How's there tarbis b'loy neshech? Yeah, just pretend it says tarbis b'loy neshech here, I think. He says, I'm lending you 100 and give me back 100. In the beginning, you could get one danka for 100. In other words, it's more than a danka. Ibasar, you could with 100 coins, you're only able to buy one danka. Now you can get more. Ibasar mikara. So once again. You're gonna go by the time of the loan. You don't have the kids are both didn't lose and they didn't gain. How can you separate the loiva losing and the malva not gaining? If the loiva loses and the malva gains, if you're gonna go by the beginning, so go both the malva and the loiva in the beginning. If you're gonna go by the end, so both the malva and the loiva are at the end, they both didn't lose. So then what happened? So we're trying to get to this point there. Just one more line, Rabbi Yisrael. There is no such thing as tarbis, ribis without neshech, and neshech without ribis. And why did the Torah separate them and put them in the pasuk as two different words? Elolav or olav b'shnei lavim, to tell you that when you lend money or borrow money, you the loiva, you the malva, the bar and the lender are both over on two separate lavim. Rabbi Yisai, have a gewaldige week, have a wonderful day, a good moyed. We'll see you Be'ezer Hashem tomorrow bright and early.